Good evening, everyone. You are in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, November the 17th, 2015. It's in the spotlight 401 show coming at you here on this Tuesday night. Our first of three shows this week. We'll get into the schedule for this week, everything we're going to do tonight and the rest of the week and all that stuff. But first, nothing that we say or do tonight and nothing that I think any of us can do in a day is more important than what I'm about to address, what I'm about to acknowledge. Um, Obviously, before we get going, we have to mention what happened on Friday in Paris, um, which was a sad, horrible, senseless situation. Um, and there's no way to wrap your mind around what happened. Um, so, obviously, first, we want to acknowledge this and say to all those that lost their lives, we hope they rest in peace. To all impacted, family, friends, loved ones of victims, anybody impacted by this horrible situation, our thoughts, our prayers, our condolences go out to you. It's just a horrible situation, um, and the best thing anybody can do outside of um, acknowledging the loss and respecting those that lost their lives and, praying for Paris and is to live your lives and don't let this start a panic. Don't let terrorism dictate your lives. That's the best thing that anybody can say to anybody right now. Don't let it disrupt your freedom. Um, don't let these people, and I use that term loosely, win. Mike, I see that you've jumped on. You want us to add anything?
There's not a whole lot I'm going to add because there's not a whole lot I can say that hasn't been said, but it's just without spreading vitriol and anger and hate, because that's what we don't need right now. We
Right.
just don't need that nonsense. So yes, to the people who are dealing with the loss and the grief for all of for these Paris attacks, thoughts and prayers, obviously thoughts and prayers. Just no words. There's right now there are no words of comfort that we could possibly offer them to kind of offer solace, except that they have our support, they have our love, they have anything they need. The world is at their side. Um, it's just you can't make sense of something so senseless, so evil, and so hate filled with hate. It's just you can't, you don't understand it. You can't, because it's just wrong. So, and honestly, I was away when it just. I was away. We were in our own little world, and all of a sudden, I get a text message about what happened, and I had to stop what I was doing. And I looked at my phone because I wasn't in Canada. I was in Long Island, so I could do this. And I looked, and it's just that was it. That was total shock. So it's kind of like a nightmare scenario. But with that being said, they have our thoughts, they have our prayers, they have our support. And that's all we can really offer them, because there's no answers that we can offer that might, give them more solace. It's just grief,
Mm-hmm.
tragedy, and learning to live on
Right.
without these people in their lives. That's
Yeah.
it's sad. That's reality, but it's terrible. I know.
And like I said, there's nothing that we say or do on the show tonight, or nothing is more important than that. But we're gonna obviously go on with the show, and we're obviously gonna talk about trivial things like sports and entertainment and those things. But again, our thoughts, prayers, and condolences to everybody out in Paris, and just pray for peace and hope for peace, because that's what we need. Really quick, you're gonna notice that there is a lot of issues tonight with Google. It's lagging. I was already told. I already got a little bit of an alert that it's slow tonight. So please bear with us. It's not us. It's Google. So keep that in mind tonight, as it lags. And one thing I found out a lot of times, and Mike, this goes for you too. A lot of times, like when we do the show, sometimes we think there's an audio problem. Like you say, you'll hear I'm sound like a robot, or it sounds gargled. And I'll say the same thing about you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I've actually gone against my own rule and kind of watched a few shows back, because I was curious to see how it was coming off and how the sound was and everything. Because people have been saying it's been good, but I had a hard time believing that. And I just found out that actually all of our shows, our audio has been pretty solid. So even if it comes off horribly live, apparently when it gets posted later on, it comes off just fine. So that's a good thing. So that's good.
Maybe all the bugs get fixed. I'm not sure. But in the live hangout, as you will, it's a little difficult. You know what I mean? It's a little hard. Because occasionally you do sound like a robot. So if in your robotic voice, if you just start shouting "exterminate," I'm going to have an issue with you right now. So don't say that. And that was a Doctor Who reference for everybody, just in case you don't watch the show. And if you don't watch the show, I'm not sure why you don't watch the show. It's a great show. There you go. There's a plug.
By the way, I never let you introduce you like I normally do. Mike, you're in the spotlight, obviously.
Oh yeah, we're about 5 minutes too late on that. She's like, yeah, let me talk. We're 5 minutes too late, and I haven't been on the show in over a week?
It's been a week.
It's been a week. Oh, what a relaxing week. Relaxing. It's like not being on the show. It's like, hey, Thursday, I didn't have to be here. Yeah. I actually got to bed early, and you text me, I was done in an hour. Ooh. Well, tough titties. Because honestly, if I were on the show, we wouldn't have been done in an hour. So
very true.
Yeah, so I don't know why you're like, ooh, I was done in an hour. So yeah, well, I'm trying to sleep because I have to be up at 3:30, so suck a dick. That was my sentiment exactly. And I'm pretty sure when I got back to you at 3:30, my sentiment was essentially suck a dick.
It was. It was
suck a dick.
The tone was incredibly like that. So yeah.
Because I had to be up at 3:30 in the morning, or excuse me, I was up at 3:15 in the morning, and you're like, well, you did the show tonight, and you sent me the hangout invitation, even though I had told you more than one time that it wasn't happening. So it's just I don't know.
You want to know what threw, and I actually acknowledged this on the show Thursday night. Okay, you want to know what threw me? I knew that you weren't going to be on the show Thursday night. Okay, but then you sent me the weirdest email saying, "Well, wait, you did the football show," and I'm like, "Why does he even care?"
I don't.
And then you start asking me, "Well, what do you like? Well, almost like you said something about the show, like, oh, are you doing another show?" I don't know what you had said, but I'm like, well, wait a minute, is he actually going to like actually do the show now? Like, I wasn't sure what was going on. So that's why I sent you.
Do you know what would have solved the problem?
What?
Shooting me a message saying, "Wait, are you doing this show now?"
I did.
Yes, and I responded back to you, "No."
You
know
answered,
why
but
I
you
sent you those messages? Because I saw that you had posted on social media that you were doing a football show. So I thought that you were only doing just 2 shows. So I'm like, oh, you replaced that second show with a football show, and you're not doing one Friday. Oh, well, that's interesting. That's it.
Right.
It wasn't, he's doing 2 shows. Well, maybe I want to get on that second one, despite the fact I've got to be up at 3:30 in the morning.
Well,
Because I want to talk about football. It's like you've never met me.
dude, I did the football show in the afternoon.
Yes. I'm aware. I thought you had only done 2 shows that week. And I was like,
No.
all right. So you changed things up. That's interesting. No, it was not that, I wanted to do the show. Ha ha. No, it had nothing to do with that.
Well, what happened was I sent that that text message to you, and then you got back to me. I remember you got back to me when I was already on the air, and I held off on starting the show because I was waiting to get a response back, just to make sure that it was what you had said it was going to be. And I sent you the invite anyway, just in case you had a change of mind, because at that point I was like, "What's is he or isn't he? Whatever." And that's why I said. And then you got back to me when I was already, and I already sent you the invite, so I can send you the invite. You just reject it. Who cares? I mean, whatever.
I don't know if you noticed, but I did.
Obviously, you didn't show up, so yeah, I suspected as such, but okay. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So here's the deal. That was last week. This is this week. Here's what's going to happen, folks. We're going to do something that we normally don't do unless there's a special circumstance, and here's the reason why. Okay. All right. So 2 things. Number 1, we obviously are on the air tonight. Tonight we're going to do a sports entertainment combo show. Sports-wise, we do some college basketball. It's been very interesting. And by the way, if I have bags under my eyes, because I've been watching college basketball for like 24 hours. So there you go.
OMG.
Shocker, right? I know. It's one of my favorite 2 days of the year is when they do the tip-off marathon. I love it. It's so much fun. So I've been watching college basketball. We're going to talk about some of the headlines. We already had a top 10 upset yesterday. We'll talk about that tonight. The Champions Classic is going on tonight. So big games going on there, showcasing 4 of the best teams in the country: Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, and Michigan State. So we'll talk a little bit about all that. We're going to do an MLB story tonight. Obviously, there was a big announcement of retirement today. David Ortiz will be retiring after the 2016 season. We'll touch on that tonight. Also, that'll be the sports stuff we're going to do tonight. And then on the entertainment side, we're going to do the box office beat, which will basically be how much will Hunger Games make this weekend, because that's basically what's going to happen. What's going to be going down this weekend. And then a little bit of TV, and that's going to be our show for tonight. Now, why are we doing sports and entertainment tonight? Well, because our second primetime show this week is going to be an all-wrestling show, previewing WWE's Survivor Series pay-per-view. Now, this is going to be a fun show because you all know what we do with this show. We go down the card, we discuss the matches, et cetera, et cetera. Well, there isn't much of a card.
Not yet, anyway.
We got the semifinal matches, the finals of the championship tournament. We have what looks, I'd imagine, would be a tag team championship, probably. The Divas Championship, which got the main event last night, which was interesting. And I think that's it so far. Oh, the Undertaker Kane versus Wyatt match. We got that one too. Which really, I guess you could say that is enough to fill 3 hours of time, but they're probably going to add something. So we'll talk about all the matches and stuff, but and obviously we'll do what we usually do, our wrestling questions and comments and all that. And we already got a lot of them from people already, but
there was another match announced.
Okay, well,
they announced that there will be a Survivor Series elimination match.
Oh, they did?
Yes, they officially announced that, but they didn't announce anything about it.
Oh, well, that's good. No build up, but okay, whatever.
So you know what? Back in the day, that happened too. Sometimes they didn't announce. They just announced, Survivor Series, and then they just throw teams together, and that's how it happened.
Right.
there usually wasn't build up until they started doing this weekly episodic thing.
Oh, no.
You know, with Raw, they kind of hinted at, the Un-Americans versus the whatever Lex Luger's team was. The Un-Americans were Yokozuna and the Quebecers and Ludwig Borga, I think. I think that sounded like the team, and then all of a sudden it was like it was Lex Luger, the Steiner brothers, and it was supposed to be Tatanka, but Tatanka got injured. Or Yokozuna injured Tatanka, and they had a mystery partner for that match, and the mystery partner was revealed to be The Undertaker, which, no offense to Tatanka, is a bit of a step up. So, but that was actually the first Survivor Series match that really got any build-up. And I got a big truck blaring its horn outside. But no, honestly, I just described to you the first Survivor Series match that actually got any build-up. And if you remember, Survivor Series existed before 1993. So Survivor Series matches never got build-up before that. So we just got spoiled. So just having it, it's what matters in the end. It's going to be Cesaro, but whatever.
Yeah. You know what's well, okay, so we got the Survivor, so we'll have plenty of matches to talk about, and there's a lot of things going around about, obviously so much of the focus is going to be on the championship tournament. And there is at the risk of talking about wrestling tonight, there is a report out there tonight that they changed the winner of the tournament already. And a lot of you probably know what that report is. I'm not going to say what it is on the air. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. But
when I'm talking, just text me, because I honestly have not seen anything. Just text me.
Right, I will do that. Mike, it's fairly recent. It's like maybe an hour or two old.
It doesn't matter. I haven't seen it because I work. I do things. I exist.
A lot of people work, Mike, but some people have more time to be on their phones and stuff. That's a given. But
unfortunately, yeah. I'm not one of those people.
No, you're not, and understandably so. Okay, so I will shoot you a text with that information. Don't worry.
The sooner the better. See, my phone. Right. My cell phone is right here.
Okay. Well, I will do that.
Unlike yours, mine is good.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Okay. Here's the thing. I just kind of announced something without even wanting to announce it. Wrestling show, which was originally scheduled for Thursday, will be tomorrow night. We don't usually do Wednesday shows. We are doing a Wednesday show this week. Why? 2 reasons. One, a number of you pretty much begged me to get off for Thursday this week because of Hunger Games. That is not the reason I'm doing this, although I'm probably going to be going to see Hunger Games probably Thursday night because my wife is big into that. So, but here's the thing. I could have went and seen Hunger Games at a number of times on Thursday. Okay, there's a million showings. The reason why we're not doing a show on Thursday is because I have a family thing I have to do, and I'm not sure how long it's going to take into Thursday night. And I don't know when I'm going to be home to be able to do the show. So rather than play the game of we might start a show at 8 on time or 8:30 or 9, whatever the case may be, I'd rather just say, enough, okay, let's just do the show on Wednesday and avoid Thursday at all costs so that we don't run into any delays or anything like that. Because my co-host likes to get to bed before 10 o'clock if he's able to. So at the risk of postponing his bedtime and at the risk of alienating him, but also alienating our audience, I've decided it's better to do the show tomorrow night and avoid having to go late into the night because we're delayed. So look at me being courteous to everybody. Isn't it wonderful? So wrestling show is going to be tomorrow night. We'll preview Survivor Series, go over all the matches, make predictions for the matches. Questions and comments will be addressed at the end of the night. wrestling questions and comments. Again, this doesn't just have to be WWE questions. It can be about any wrestling organization you want. For those that have not sent in your questions or comments, you can still do so via email, Facebook, and Twitter. I'll give you that information in just a moment. So make sure that if you want to get your questions or comments in, you do that before the show, or you can also do it during the show as well. Keep that in mind. So wrestling show tomorrow. Also, our football show. We will have a football show this week in the Spotlight Football Blitz. Will more than likely, again, unless something changes, will be coming at you on Friday this week. Now, last week it was Thursday. Last minute, we changed everything up. I do not anticipate that happening this week. I believe it will be on Friday. So right now, the schedule has it on Friday at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. So jot that down. Our In the Spotlight Football Blitz will be this Friday at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. If anything changes, I will announce it tomorrow. Again, the chance of a last-minute kind of abrupt change like last week are very, very slim. I didn't like doing that just the way it had to be last week, but and I don't anticipate that happening this week. So jot that down for Friday, and if anything changed, I'll be sure to let you all know tomorrow night when we have our wrestling show tomorrow night. So next week, a lot of people are asking me about next week. How is that going to work? I will right now, we know we're going to do a show on Tuesday. We're obviously not going to do shows on Thursday or Friday. If I had to guess right now, I would say that Tuesday we'll do a sports entertainment combo show, and that will be that. And then we'll do our football blitz show probably either Tuesday during the day or on Wednesday during the day. We will not do a show Wednesday night. We will not do a show Thursday. We will not do a show Friday. So I'll let you all know more about that tomorrow. I haven't, but we're definitely doing a show on Tuesday, and more than likely it's just going to be all of our sports stuff, entertainment stuff tossed out there on Tuesday, and then football blitz will either be Tuesday afternoon. So I'll either double up on shows Tuesday or do the football show on Wednesday. So I'll let you all know. I'll let you know more about that tomorrow. So there's all the information about this week and what's going to be going down next week. At least little hints of what's going to go down next week. So before we get going, and that seems kind of weird because we've been going on for about 15, 20 minutes, almost a half hour now. But if you'd like to interact with us, contribute to the show, have your voice heard, you can email us at itspotlight. Well, that's an old email. Why would I even mention that? itspotlight411. There you go, at gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. And please be sure to use the hashtags, hashtag itspotlight411 or hashtag ITS5, because ITS5 for our 5th anniversary as a podcast. You can also find us on Facebook in the Spotlight 411. And then once you find our Facebook page, make sure you like it. And of course, for you wrestling fans out there that want to have questions or comments submitted for tomorrow, either before the show or during the show, use that information there to be able to do that. All right. So here we go. Let's get going here. We will start off with college basketball because that is the big thing. The big headline from yesterday, of course, was the big Virginia loss. Virginia lost to George Washington yesterday in a very, very good ball game. And, it's funny because me and myself and Mike have said a lot of things about Virginia over the last couple of years. These couple of years that they've been competitive and considered an elite team. And what's interesting is, we've always sat there, and there have been times we sat there late in the season wondering how they only have one loss, how they only have 2 losses, And finally, their style of play finally caught up to them before the tournament, before late in the season. They finally had got sniped by a team early in the season. And I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, to be honest with you. It's the way that they play, it just lends itself to that. But yeah, Virginia loses to George Washington. There were a lot of great games over the last over 24 hours. I'll tell you the things that stuck out to me other than the Virginia loss. Really, 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 I watched the game this afternoon, Dayton, Alabama. I really like Dayton. I like last couple of years they've been kind of coming on, but this year I'm telling you right now, they got the experience out. They got an underrated coach in Archie Miller. This team is a very good team. I expect them to be in the top 20. I didn't mention Dayton last week as a sweeper. I'm going to make an addition here. They look very, very good. Very good. I keep an eye on Dayton. They really impressed me in their performance today. Yesterday, Oregon I thought was very impressive against Baylor. It was one of the better games of the marathon. They beat Baylor 74-67. That was a good game. Oregon looked very, very good in that game. Those are the things that I noticed over the course of the last day of all this action, which is really when the college basketball season really gets going. Yes, there's some games on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but there was a lot of games. Yes, obviously the tip-off marathon to me is when things get going, culminating in the Champions Classic, and those are the things I took away from really what is the unofficial start of the season with this marathon here. Also, Wisconsin got upset already on Friday. A little shocking that was, but again, Wisconsin's kind of gone back to that old style of being perimeter oriented a little bit because they kind of have to. That's the personnel that they have, and what are you going to do? That's just the way you got to play it. That's the way you got to play. It is what it is. But and losing to Western Illinois. I mean, Western Illinois is not a horrible team, but still, it's kind of a shock. Keep in mind too, there was a game that got suspended on Friday. Armed Forces Classic between Pittsburgh and Gonzaga ended with Pittsburgh on top 37-35. I don't know if they're going to pick up that game or not. I highly doubt it. It was a wet court. They couldn't play. So, but that game got suspended. So if you're wondering why Gonzaga hasn't played a game yet, record-wise, that's why. So a thing that we failed to mention in our college basketball preview last week was the change to the shot clock. The shot clock in college basketball is now 30 seconds, which was done to combat the what they're calling the spamming of the shot clock that a lot of teams, Notre Dame is one of them, would like. I don't want to say about just Notre Dame, but Notre Dame is the first team I thought of. The teams that would like to, wait to the final seconds of the shot clock, reduce possessions. They're trying to speed up the game, make it, get the offense going again, that kind of thing. So to do that, to improve the quality of play, they dropped the shot clock by 5 seconds. So new shot clock, which is already, if you notice the scores of some of these college basketball games, has shown a difference in some of the scores. We've seen a lot of high-scoring games already this season. So I think you're going to see a much more improved offensive nature here in college basketball. As I said, this tip-off marathon culminating tonight, as it has the last couple of years, with the Champions Classic, which this year is taking place from the United Center in Chicago. Obviously, it's always Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, Michigan State. Those are the four. Kentucky, Duke is the first game tonight. Kansas, Michigan State is the nightcap right now. Kentucky is at the half with Duke, leading 37-31. Duke's had a hard time scoring the ball. Kentucky's defense has been particularly good. Offensively, they look pretty strong so far. Really good game earlier today as well. I forgot to mention that Oklahoma-Memphis. I was very impressed with how Memphis looked. I was even more impressed with how Oklahoma looked. Obviously, Oklahoma's in the top 10. We spoke a lot about them last week. But until you see them, I don't think you have any idea how good they are. Buddy Hield, you're going to hear that name a lot. And he's a player of the year candidate. 30 points in that game. He was tremendous. Oklahoma, I think, might be even better than anticipated. They looked incredibly good against Memphis this afternoon, so keep an eye on them. There's quite a few good games tonight. The Champions Classic, obviously, I mentioned Kentucky Duke at the half. Later on tonight, the second game of that doubleheader is Kansas and Michigan State, which should be a great game. Michigan State, of course, went back to the Final Four last year. They are loaded this year. I expect them to be a very good basketball team, although I don't think they're going to be a Final Four team this year. I think they're going to have – I think the difference is that they got Maryland in that conference, and it's going to be very tough for them to deal with them this year. And speaking of Maryland, Maryland has a good game tonight against Georgetown coming up at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. I'd highly recommend that game. I think it's going to be a very, very good one. So some good games already over these last 24 hours and some good games left to go, including, of course, the Champions Classic, which we'll keep you up to date on throughout the show here tonight while we're on the air. Mike, obviously you were away. I think Mike got kicked off. Okay, wait a second. I think he got kicked off. Pardon me, folks. I apologize for that. Let me see what's going on here. I actually think he got kicked off. Let me see if I can get him back on. I just sent him another invite. I apologize for that, folks. I didn't mean to stop the show like that. I just noticed that he was no longer in the box in the corner, so I think I lost him. Hopefully he gets back on soon. All right. But as I was saying, I was going to throw to him and see. I know he was away, but I was going to throw to him and see what his thoughts were on some of these games and get a sense of what's going on, what his thoughts were. While we're waiting to see him jump back on the stream, let's see if let's look around the dial because we focus oftentimes, especially early season, you focus so much on. Oh, here he is.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay, not a problem. I noticed it and I stopped and I sent you an invite and got you back on. So there you go.
Well, this is temporary because my computer has had a bit of an issue. Google's running slow tonight on all fastest. Chrome just crapped out on me a little bit. I don't want to get too close because it's kind of weird, but I'm on an iPhone right now, so that's what happens.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so well, basically, I was strolling to you because I had acknowledged Wisconsin's already lost to I think it was Western Illinois. Pardon me. I think that was who it was. Virginia lost to George Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned Oklahoma looked very impressive. Buddy Hield, 30 points. I was also impressed with Dayton today. Georgetown, Maryland coming up tonight. That's a big game. The Champions Classic, Kentucky's leading Duke 37-31. Kansas and Michigan State coming up tonight. So I know that you were away, so I wasn't sure if you had any thoughts to contribute to the whole college basketball season starting conversation here.
Well, I was able to watch a little college basketball during my trip, just a little bit. In fact, one of the few games I was able to watch in its entirety was Gonzaga versus Pitt.
Right.
By entirety, I mean I caught it here and there, and then they stopped the game.
Right.
But Pitt was winning, so that was good. What else? Well, we already told you that as everybody else, we mentioned that Duke wasn't going to be that good this year. I mean, they were going to be good, but they weren't going to be like, oh, they are returning guys. They're returning some guys, and they're not returning a lot of guys. And it's more not like they're defending a championship. They're chasing a championship. It's like somebody else won last year. So this is a Duke team that is kind of rebuilding. It's kind of in rebuild mode. And right now I'm in kind of panic mode because Syracuse only has a 3-point lead over St. Bonaventure.
And they've been down in that game quite a bit too.
They were down in that game quite a bit, and the fact that it's this close, it's a little disconcerting. But again, this is a Syracuse team that had no choice but to rebuild despite some guys leaving before it was their time. But this is a Syracuse team that is trying to rebuild a little bit, and they're trying, and they're doing it. Let's see, Virginia lost, right?
But yep, Virginia lost.
That was the big loss yesterday, Virginia. Was it yesterday?
Yeah. It was early. It was early on. Yeah, early on yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, there were teams that have lost already. There are major teams that have suffered a loss. Virginia going down to George Washington isn't really that surprising. Here's the thing. Let's see. It was 73-68, right? Pretty close, right? This is why you should never get behind Virginia. You can't do it. Virginia went 5 of 20 from 3. And that made up a solid 30% of all of their field goal attempts.
Yep.
They took about 62 shots. So it's about 30% of their shots were from 3.
Yep.
And they only made 5. So I know Virginia's a solid team. No, they are. I know they've got great talent. But you live by the 3, you die by the 3. That's the long and the short.
That's right.
And we could analyze it. We can go over it a million trillion times, but the truth is this. That Duke team that won the championship a few years ago. I forgot who it was. I don't remember who they played, but the Duke team that won a few years ago, yes, Duke is a team that dies by the 3 quite a bit, but they are good enough to not fall into that trap when it matters. They're good enough to balance their offense. And that's the name of the game. There's the teams that... What the heck? Just leave me alone. Computer problems. It's just not fun. But you have dog problems, so
Yeah.
mine are less loud. But that's why you never go with teams that live by the 3, die by the 3, because when the game comes down to it in the end, you can't trust your guys to make 3s over and over and over because you're just not.
Right.
Eventually, the perimeter defense is going to catch up. End of discussion. Your perimeter defense is going to catch up, and you're going to come against a team that has a good perimeter defense, and you're like, oh, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm screwed. That's Virginia. Look, honestly, let's say they played George, and they lost to where? They lost at Virginia, right?
Yes. Wait, I think so.
No,
Hang on.
they lost to the Charles E. Smith Center in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. I got another phone here. All right. You know what? Maybe they play in Virginia. Virginia routes them because, they hit, let's say they take 23s again. Let's say they take 23s and they make 10. Virginia wins. But that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll make 10 threes at Virginia. But that doesn't mean they're going to make 10 threes when they come down to it at and I don't know where they would play Florida in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So is Virginia losing surprising? This early, yes, but not. It's not surprising in the long run because it'll happen again. It's happened early enough now where maybe they can learn from their mistake. But I don't know. But what was the other big loss?
Wisconsin, Western Illinois.
That's not that surprising. Wisconsin they're not, obviously they lost their biggest player, one of their best players in the history of their program, so it's not surprising. So Wisconsin, they're a little bit overrated for this time of the season anyway. So let's be just honest right there.
Right. I think the biggest thing is I think that loss came at home.
I think you're right, but
that's the thing that shocked everybody. Not that they lost, because they've lost in non-conference before, but they usually do it on the road.
It's still no excuse. You lose at home sometimes. It happens.
It does. It does.
Let's face it. Everybody was surprised when Kentucky lost a game at home, or everybody's surprised when Kansas loses a game at home. Everybody's surprised when Duke loses a game at home. No, teams lose games at home. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
It happens. Everybody was. They don't do it to D2 or D3 teams. Hi, Kentucky. Hi, Syracuse. Hey, Syracuse. Oh, that one hurt a little bit. Oh, actually, well, as alumnus of the team of the D3 team that beat Syracuse on their home court, it's a little bittersweet.
Yeah.
So,
Um.
although good news though, Syracuse is currently up by 10.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit of a run here. Malachi Richardson's actually having a little bit of a breakout game here, which I expected to happen pretty early.
He needs more than that, yeah. But
Benajay's having a good game too, so that's good.
so I see.
Yeah. Couple of things. I mentioned this, Mike. When you were off, when you were kicked off. One of the things we didn't bring up last week on the preview show was the fact that the shot clock in college is now 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you look at a lot of the scores, you can see that reflected. That
It's
nobody,
faster, yeah.
Notre Dame can no longer do their little. I bring up Notre Dame because the first team that always comes to mind, the whole spamming of the shot clock thing. So it's
yeah.
I mean, they can do it, but it's kind of like I like it. I think it's I've noticed the play is a little bit better. I mean, it's early in the season, we're only like a couple of days in, but I've noticed the games are better so far. So, and I need to acknowledge this. I mean, no disrespect to this player. Okay, I hope that no offense meant, but I'm looking at the scores here, and Louisville's playing Hartford tonight, and they're obviously beating them by quite a lot here. But there's a player named. Pancake Thomas.
What?
There is a player for Hartford named Pancake Thomas.
I'm pretty sure Pancake is a nickname.
I'm sure it is, but and again, I don't mean no disrespect, but can you imagine like you're looking and that's the first thing you see on the top line of and God bless him, he's the high scorer, 20 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist.
His name is actually Cleveland.
Okay, well, I figured it was a nickname, but still, I just think it was. I was surprised to see it. It was like, wow.
He's probably named Pancake because he's sweet from the floor. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? Good, because I'm not going to make the reference again. You can just deal with it.
Of course.
It's not my fault you suck.
Anyway, couple of things here on the Kentucky. Hang on a second, my screen is freezing here. That's not good. There it goes. Wow, all kinds of things are happening online tonight.
Yep. Not gonna lie.
A couple of things about the Kentucky Duke game. Let's see here. The biggest problem for Duke has been Grayson Allen in the first half. No points. Wasn't for Marshall Plumlee. I don't even think they'd be in this game. He started 0 for 9 in this game. Obviously, he's been great in his first 2 games. A lot of people think he could be ACC Player of the Year. Remember, he was a breakout star for Duke in the tournament last year. He's become a big centerpiece of their offense. He has been non-existent so far in this game. That's a big difference in this game early. Plumlee's been huge for them. In the first half, 11 points, 4 for 5, 8 rebounds, 5 blocks. He's been just huge for them, and that's been the key for Duke. That's what's kept them in the game. We'll see what happens there, but Duke is. I think Duke's in some trouble here against Kentucky because Kentucky is just is getting whatever they want in the paint. Number one, and if Duke's going to fall in love with jump shots, and I'm not even talking just 3-point shots, they're falling in love with jump shots, period. Okay? They're going to fall in love with jump shots against Kentucky. They're getting easy runouts and transition baskets. You ain't going to go very far. So we'll see what happens there. Keep you updated on that score throughout the night. Again, Kansas, Michigan State, the second game coming at you later tonight, as well as Georgetown, Maryland on ESPN2. And obviously, me and my co-hosts are keeping an eye on Syracuse St. Bonaventure for obvious reasons. So, because that's our hometown team, so we care.
Yep.
And I think Villanova plays tonight, Mike. So there's that.
I'm aware.
They
do.
Yep. Of course you're aware. I'm sure you're aware of the Longwood Lancers are playing tonight too. So
I am also aware of that. Yes.
yeah, you're already up to date on everything.
Well, yes,
and I did.
I follow certain teams,
Yes,
and
I
I'm
did
aware
send
the
you that text, by the way.
I know, and I'm aware the Longwood Lancers are in it. They're in it to win it. They're in it to go the distance.
Yes.
So
Of course.
hold on. And I'm going to be off of this one in a minute.
Okay, so I have to send you another invite, right? Okay, so he's gone. So he's going to be gone for a little bit. I will send him another invite, make sure he can get back on. Okay. That he's good to go. All right. So he's got another invite. All right. So while we're waiting for him, because we've already done a lot with college basketball, a lot of the stuff that I wanted to cover, and obviously, like I said, we'll keep you up to date on all the scores, so the Champions Classic games, and anything else of note throughout the night tonight while we're on the air. Obviously, we'll only be on the air probably for another hour or so. So while Mike is getting his technical issues situated, let's move on to our other major sports topic tonight, and that is the impending retirement of David Ortiz. This afternoon, David Ortiz announced that he will retire after the 2016 season. He's going to look, he is the Derek Jeter basically to the Boston Red Sox. He's been there for 13 years. People forget that this man actually was somewhere else but Boston. He started his career in Minnesota, spent 6 seasons with the Twins. They released him. He didn't really do much of anything for them. I mean, I think he had maybe like 1 or 2 20 home run seasons. I can't remember off the top of my head. Signed with the Red Sox as a free agent in 2002. And from that point on, he became the heart and soul of that team. He will be celebrated. He will be treated like royalty. He will get a farewell tour like, Jeter did and Mariano did. He'll get that kind of thing. People love Ortiz. People in Boston love Ortiz. People around the league love Ortiz. I know there's been a lot of stuff said about David Ortiz, and whether it's true or not, who knows? But that, like I said, a lot of people like David Ortiz, and he's going to get a farewell tour, and he deserves it. He's been a great ambassador of the game, been a great spokesperson of the game. It's hard not to like the guy. He's been a great leader for that team. A great guy, generally great guy, great personality. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I tuned into the home run derby, and he was always encouraging a lot of the other guys and just being a genuinely good guy, a good teacher, a good role model, and that's to be appreciated. That really is to be appreciated. And he is, a couple years ago, he's a regular on here, Justin, our friend Justin, who's a co-host here on the show occasionally. He asked me a couple years ago. He said, "Do you think David Ortiz?" Actually, more than a couple years ago, I think it was. It was, maybe 8 years ago, I believe. I remember we were having this conversation on his back deck. He asked me, "Do you think that David Ortiz is going to be a Hall of Famer?" And at that point, I said, "You know what? I honestly did not think David Ortiz would play this long. He's going to be 40 years old this year. I didn't think he would play this long. I honestly did not think that." So when he asked me this, I think he was borderline. I think he was like under 400 home runs, and I said, "You know what? I don't know. I think it's going to be. I think for him, I'd like to see him get to 500 home runs, and that's what he did. He's got 503 home runs. He's got 2,303 hits, a 284 batting average, 1,641 RBIs. He's knocked in 14 RBIs in the World Series. Okay, I think at one World Series he batted, I think, 688, which is the year he won the MVP in that series. He's considered now above Edgar Martinez as the greatest DH of all time. Look, there was once a time where 400 home runs guaranteed you the Hall of Fame. 300 used to do it. 400 in recent times today. He's hit 500. He's going to the Hall of Fame. 3-time World Series champion, World Series MVP in 2013, ALCS MVP in 2004, 9-time All-Star, 6-time Silver Slugger, 7-time Edgar Martinez Award, AL home run leader in 2006, two-time AL RBI leader, 500 home run. He's going to the Hall of Fame. And he deserves to. And he deserves to be celebrated. Kudos to him. It's going to be a great career. I hope he has a great year. He had 37 home runs last year. So, he had that one bad year a couple years ago where everybody thought he was done. Then he lost some weight. He got his bat speed back. And from that point on, he was the same David Ortiz, a Yankee killer, hurting the Yankees every chance he got. Big game hitter. Every time he needed a big hit, David Ortiz came through. I hope he has a great year. I hope he goes out on top, and I hope he's celebrated. And I think the Yankees and Red Sox finish the season. I think it's one of the last series for each team. It's September 27th through 29th, so that should be interesting. I hope the Yankees and the Red Sox are both good this season because I want that to be, Ortiz going out and then it being Yankees versus Red Sox. That'd be amazing. Amazing theater to see. So we'll see what happens, but definitely he's a Hall of Famer, and God bless him. You know what? He deserves to retire, and I hope he retires on top. Mike, do you have any thoughts on the David Ortiz retirement news?
Not really. Look, I'm not a baseball fan. I've never pretended to be a baseball fan. I will say this, though. David Ortiz is one of the modern legends of the game. Easily one of the modern legends. He was one of the greatest designated hitters in the history of the game. Just a fantastic dude. He's charismatic. He literally has taken a team and a city on his back when he needed to. So David Ortiz deserves every bit of the pomp and circumstances coming in his way. Yes, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt about it. 400 home runs, couple World Series MVPs. He is far and away one of the best players in the league even now. It's just he's at the end of his run. That's all. But he deserves every bit of celebration that is going to come his way, 100%. So,
yep, agreed. And there's not much you can say about it. And you know what? I really wasn't surprised because he's been signing these one-year deals pretty much for the last couple of years. And look, I think it's gotten to the point now where he knows that each and every year he's going to perform up to a high level. Because he's a DH. And when you're a DH, people don't realize you basically can extend your career. It's going to extend A-Rod's career. It's extending Ortiz's career because they don't have to worry about fielding. He can just go out there and hit. And honestly, David can probably play another couple years and still be in the 30 to 40 home run plateau and still be a performer. I just think he's ready to go. He's ready to retire. And look, there's no guarantee that the Red Sox are going to be consistent winners year in and year out. I think that's one of the reasons why he stayed so long is because usually the Red Sox were competitive until the last couple of years, where they kind of had a fall off. Now with Dave Dombrowski there, and don't think that Dave Dombrowski, when he signed on to be the Red Sox GM, didn't know this. You see some of the moves he's making now. They went and got Craig Kimbrough to close. They needed a closer. They went all in. They got destroyed their farm system to make that trade, but they needed a closer. They can't get a closer on the open market, so they go get one. Dave Dombrowski is not worried about the farm system. You can tell he knows David Ortiz is retiring. We have a short window. Let's go for it. Let's get this team back on track. Let's go for it. And that's what they're doing this year, the Red Sox. I expect them to be good this year. I think they're going to go all in this year because they know it's Ortiz's swan song. They want to try to go out for a championship. And that's what you should do for your team. I wish the Yankees had done that. That's what you should do. You got a big your leaders you're retiring, go all out. And I commend them for that. And I hope I shouldn't even say I hope. I know he's going to have a good year. As long as he stays on the field, and God willing, he will. He'll hit 30 to 35 home runs, maybe even a little more. He'll knock in 100 RBIs. He'll have his typical David Ortiz year. Because that's how good he is. That's how good he is. A swing built for Fenway, but you know what? Oftentimes people use that to underestimate. They say, oh, it's all about Fenway. It's not about Fenway. He's a good hitter. He hits wherever he goes. He did it in Yankee Stadium. He did it in Philadelphia. He's done it everywhere he's gone. Once he got to the Red Sox and once he became a star, it's just the bottom line. Doesn't matter where he's hitting. He's a good hitter. Don't make it all about Fenway Park. He's a good hitter no matter where he is. Bottom line. So we wish him well. We wish him a good season. Hopefully everything works out for him, and should be interesting and fun to see his real farewell tour this year. It should be, you know, and again, as Mike noted, he deserves it all. So, all right, we've done a lot with sports. Let's jump to entertainment for the second part of our show here tonight. And we'll start off as we always do when we get to entertainment. We'll always start off with the box office. As we preview this weekend's box office. And look, I'm not going to waste time talking about last weekend because it went exactly as we all suspected it would. Spectre was number one again. Peanuts movie was second. The new movies didn't do so well. Pretty much fell right in line with where you'd think they would fall. With gosh, I'm blanking on the movie's name now. What in the world? Love the Coopers. Pardon me. There you go. Love the Coopers coming in third with the best of the new releases at 8.3 million, to 33 at 5.7, which was actually people thought that was like lower than expected. I don't even know why you would think that'd be lower than expected because there was really not much expectations there. My All-American 1.3 didn't think that would make a lot. So Spectre 33.6, the Peanuts movie 24 million. Again, you know, some people might think that's a little low for both of them. They might have dropped a little more than you'd expected, but really, you know, that's apples and oranges. You know what? You know, maybe more. You could judge that as more people came out during the week to see those movies. You know, it is what it is. But both movies are on track relatively, or at least in the range of where the studios would want them to be. So, nothing concerning at all. And there's nothing else you can say about them. Spectre dropped 50%, 52%. Peanuts movie dropped 45%, and those aren't really shocking drops. I mean, they might be a little bit more than you'd expect, but sometimes that happens, you know, circumstances, weather, maybe more people came out during the week to see it. Maybe more people are putting off seeing them, or they're just excited about Hunger Games and they're saving their money or whatever. I think a big surprise has been The Martian and how well it's held by all the new competition. It's 6.7 this weekend, which is tremendous given how long it's been out. Goosebumps has held well as well. 4.6 million. Again, even after the Halloween holiday, it's held. Hotel Transylvania's even held up even after the holiday. So those have been more bigger storylines to me. It's how well some of these seasonal movies have held. Bridge of Spies too, which is not really a seasonal movie, but it's held up very well over the last couple of weeks. So to me, those movies holding up despite, you know, the holiday movie competition coming into play, like Spectre and Peanuts movie, to me has been shocking. But obviously things changed this week, and I don't think some of these movies that have held up better than expected, I think are going to really take a dive this weekend. And I think also that the Spectre and the Peanuts movie will take big dives now too because of what is about to descend upon the box office this weekend. And of course, we all know what that is, and that is the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, the final installment in the Hunger Games franchise from Lionsgate. Will be in over 4,000 theaters this weekend. Of course, Jennifer Lawrence, Josh Hutcherson, William Hemsworth, the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, Julianne Moore. Once again, directed by Francis Lawrence. The last installment, everybody's expecting at least $140 million opening, which seems a safe bet. Maybe 150. There's a Hunger Games is going to be number one. Just a matter of how much it makes. Does it do 140, 150? Does it even exceed that? Because it is the last one. And when you get a last installment of a franchise, you always have a chance at attracting more of the casuals, meaning those outside the diehard fan base of that respectively. Now, that didn't really do so well for The Hobbit last year. But I argue that maybe Hunger Games has a little bit more of a better chance at grabbing more of the casuals than maybe The Hobbit did. So that doesn't mean it'll happen. It just means I think it has more of a chance. To me, the bigger story is this. Okay, Hunger Games is going to be a big story. It's going to make a lot of money. We all know that. And it's probably going to dominate until Star Wars. The bigger question for me is what happens to the night before. And that's been a topic that we've discussed over the last couple weeks. The night before, of course, is a comedy from Sony Columbia. This movie opening in 2,700 theaters. Seth Rogen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Anthony Mackie, Rogen, a producer on it as well. It is a Christmas film. It's R-rated. A lot of people have been really critical of this movie and its release date, wondering why it would be released against the Hunger Games, why it wouldn't wait. First week of December has a horror comedy kind of, not horror comedy, horror kind of PG suspense kind of movie coming out that's holiday themed. Why not go up against that? You'd probably dominate. Here's the thing, okay? I don't like the release date for this movie. I don't think putting it in the first week of December would have solved anything because you are burning off a lot of the Thanksgiving movies still. Hunger Games, Good Dinosaur, you are burning off a lot of those movies. And if you wait to the second week of December, well, you're running into more big movies. And then you're only a week out from Star Wars. My thing was this. We've seen some Christmas movies open as early as the first week of November. I probably would have. I'm leaning in the direction of maybe I would have opened this movie last weekend. I know the conventional thing is, well, wait a minute, you're going up against Spectre and the Peanuts movie. Look, Spectre. Anybody that wanted to see Spectre, the majority of the people that wanted to see Spectre probably already came out in the first weekend. Yeah, you get some people coming out the second weekend too, but I feel confident enough that a movie like The Night Before, which is primarily going to appeal to Seth Rogen's fans, which are younger fans, college age fans, okay, they probably would have came out to see this movie last weekend. They probably would have came out to see it. And as far as that fan base goes, if they were seeing Spectre, they probably saw it the first weekend. So I think it would have been okay, and then you would have gotten a week out ahead of Hunger Games. The other thing I probably would suggest to, if not that week, you could have justified releasing it, even though I know there's a lot of movies on the night before Thanksgiving, Good Dinosaur, Creed, Victor Frankenstein. 2 of those movies are dramas, and another one's animated. You're a completely different fan base. You could have released that Thanksgiving before Thanksgiving as well, when a lot of college students and young people are out and about. So you had a couple of options. Now there is a confidence from a lot of pundits that The Night Before will do okay. It'll probably get second place, maybe 14, 15 million, which isn't too bad against the Hunger Games. And it'll have, and if it's a good enough movie, which people think it is, it'll hold up very well in the coming weeks with Thanksgiving and everything, and it'll do okay. And it might end up doing that, but I've always felt like if you lose the first weekend, you lose a lot of people that would have given you the benefit of the doubt. Once you get beyond that first weekend, you're not as promoted. You're not as remembered for being released. People tend to forget about you. So it makes it harder to do well. So, that's always my concern. It probably will end up doing well. With all intents and purposes. But I do think it's a tremendous risk to release this movie up against the Hunger Games. And we'll see how it does in the broad scheme of things. There is another movie being released, and that is this, A Secret in Their Eyes, 2,400 theaters. It's being released, and it's a thriller. Chiwetel Ejiofor, Nicole Kidman, Julia Roberts. Kind of a movie that, it's got awards buzz going on for it. Check your local theater listings because I don't think it's in every theater, obviously. Not a lot expected of it, really. And with Hunger Games and stuff, it doesn't bode well, really. So I don't expect a whole lot there. Again, for Hunger Games, you're looking at 140 to 150 or so $1 million opening weekend. I think really night before, because of its R rating and such, you're probably looking at 13, 14, 15 million. If it has legs, it can probably draw around 10, 12 million for the next couple of weeks. And again, Seth Rogen's got a big fan base, and it does look like a good movie, so hopefully it ends up doing well. Some people think he'll do well enough to get into second place. It depends on how far Spectre falls. It has fallen. Last week it fell off more than expected. You know, there's a feeling that maybe it'll hold up better than expected this week because of that. But if it ends up falling even more, then I would say the night before might beat it for second. And then, of course, there's a Peanuts movie, which, again, depending on how it holds, could take second, third, or even fourth. A Secret in Their Eyes, I wouldn't expect more than 8 million for. And then everything else should be under 5 million this weekend. This is going to be really the biggest question for me is what happens with the night before. And by contrast, Spectre and the Peanuts movie, how they hold up, and if they impact how far Night Before is ranked. You know, Night Before hasn't. If it gets 14, 15 million, that could be strong enough to get second. But if Spectre and the Peanuts movie hold up better than expected, then it might get fourth with that. So it should be interesting to see what Night Before does, what happens with Peanuts movie and Spectre, and how they hold up, and then of course how much Hunger Games draws. In its opening weekend. I don't think you're going to see a record breaker. I think that's coming next month, but it'll still be interesting to see what it can do. Couple of limited releases with awards buzz. Carol, a drama from the Weinstein Company, opening in 4 theaters and limited release this week. Kate Blanchett, Kyle Chandler, Rooney Mara, Sarah Paulson. R-rated. Keep an eye. Check your local theater listings for that one. Again, there's some buzz for that movie as far as the award season goes. And then another movie called Legend, starring Emily Browning, Christopher Eccleston, Taron Egerton, Tom Hardy. Getting a lot. It's a R-rated film, opening in 4 theaters, limited release. Again, this movie also getting a lot of buzz as far as the award season. So check your local theater listings for that. Mike, you have any thoughts on the box office last weekend or as it stands this weekend?
I disagree with you. I think the Night Before should have opened up on December 4th. And the reason is this. Krampus isn't going to get a super big box. And even if they don't want to open it up on December 4th, then you open it up on December 11th. Because the only movies out are In the Heart of the Sea and Legend, which is going nationwide. In the Heart of the Sea isn't going to be, it's a Ron Howard movie. It's an Oscar movie, maybe. It's not going to be a huge draw out of the box. It's not. I'm burping, so it's going to come out. But if you release that on the 11th, you get one good week before Star Wars. If you release it on the 4th, you go toe-to-toe with Krampus. And that's better off than going toe-to-toe with, I don't know, the Hunger Games. So I think they made a huge mistake. So I think on December 4th, the #1 movie will be contested by The Good Dinosaur, Creed, and the Hunger Games, instead of having a fresh movie like The Night Before coming out and kind of dominating the competition, because it's a Christmas movie in December. People want to see holiday movies. It's what people want. And they're not going to get it. So it's a long shot for it to be safe. But long shots are just that. They're long shots. The Hunger Games is going to dominate the next couple of weekends. It's just, you know what? That's not entirely true. The Hunger Games is going to dominate this weekend without any problems. Next weekend, it's a little different because you have The Good Dinosaur, which is getting great buzz. You've got Creed, which is getting great buzz. So it's hard to say what's going to win on the 25th. Either the Hunger Games in the second weekend or Good Dinosaur or Creed. I have a feeling it's going to be between the Good Dinosaur and Hunger Games. It just depends on where the teams and tweens take their dollar. That's it.
Right.
I will tell you this: it's going to be better than Krampus, and that's for the night before should have been. So
Right.
that is my on the box office. Coming to box office currently, there's really no thoughts because Spectre won, Phoenix is second. Both are excuse me, I'm fading fast. Spectre is profitable. Peanuts is almost profitable. They're the biggest movies of the last couple of weeks. Of course, they're going to be fine. And everything else had no traction. So there you go. There's the box office.
Right. Okay. So now, as I said, next week we already kind of tilted our hand to what's coming up next week. Obviously, it's a big week. It's obviously Thanksgiving week. It's obviously a big shopping week. It's obviously the transition from Thanksgiving to Christmas. It's also a big movie week. So, what you're gonna see is now. Everybody always asks me when we hit one of these periods, whether it's Memorial Day weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, Columbus Day, how do you look at it? Like, do you look at it from a 5-day thing or a 6-day thing? Like, how do you look at it? Well, I think you look at it in two phases. You look at it from Wednesday to Sunday, and you look at it from Friday to Sunday. All right, and the one thing you got to keep in mind is this: Friday is not going to be your traditional Friday because a lot of people are going to be shopping. There's a lot of Christmas tree lightings and all this other stuff. Okay, and so that takes a lot out of it right there. And then, of course, any movies that open on Wednesday, they might have been seen Wednesday, they might have been seen Thursday. So it obviously it's one of the more unpredictable periods of the box office. It really is. It's a very hard. So we'll talk more about this next week. But the movies you got coming out, it's a big period for the box office, but it's an unusual period. It's an unorthodox period every year. So, and that's one of the reasons why, I think a lot of times you see movies shy away from that first weekend of December because they figure if by some chance there's movies that underperform during Thanksgiving because of one thing or the other, they might draw big that next weekend to make up for it. And that's probably what the studio behind Night Before was thinking, even though there are a lot of pros as to putting the Night Before that first weekend of December. But there are a couple of cons too. So it's I understand the argument both ways. And I think a couple of weeks ago I was even on board with having it released the first week of December, but I'm kind of on the fence about it because I think there's a lot of traction either way. But anyway, we'll talk about next week. Next week on Tuesday's show, we'll preview the Thanksgiving box office and look back at what Hunger Games did. And what Hunger Games is going to dominate, it's a thing. So this depends on by how much. We'll see how everything pans out and talk about it, obviously, next week when we do our next edition of the box office beat. Next edition of the box office beat, which will be next Tuesday on next Tuesday's show. All right, which will be our only primetime show of the week, I'd imagine. So, all right, let's move on to our last segment of the night. And this is the point when we do our entertainment content for the week, our entertainment material for the week, where we take a few minutes to look back at the week in TV. This always works better when we do it on a Thursday because you've had a couple of days into the week to kind of watch TV. Whenever we do it on a Tuesday, it's always hard because, number one, there's not a lot on TV during the weekend. And the last time I did this was on Thursday, and I already talked about a lot of what I had seen last week. So I really don't watch anything on Fridays. I really don't watch anything over the weekend, aside from Walking Dead on Sunday. And Monday, and so that only really leaves you with Monday. So I don't have a lot to talk about. So for our TV report card segment, I imagine it's not going to be very long. Plus, my co-host was away all weekend, so I'd imagine that he didn't really see much TV. So this TV report card segment might be pretty brief. I will say this much. Let me. A lot of people have asked you, like, you've talked a lot about like Agents of Shield and Doctor Who and Gotham and all these other shows. And now, a lot of this has been addressed at me. You haven't mentioned Walking Dead, and I have not mentioned Walking Dead, which is odd for me because I watch the show every week, and there's been a lot of good moments on the show this year. Obviously, a lot of people have talked about the infamous Glenn stuff this year, which has been, very an interesting choice by the show to do what they did there and kind of tease the audience. And I'm thinking that will be addressed soon. The show has done some good things this year. They played with time. Actually, every episode of the season has taken place in the same day. It's focused on a different set of characters each week. The two 90-minute episodes, the season premiere, and of course the Morgan episode have been brilliant. I think every episode this year has been. I really think this show has always been good. Okay, this show's always been good, but I think in the last season and a half, it's been at its best. I know that's a lot of people disagree because they think some of it's been boring because sometimes it's slow and they focus on one or two characters. We've finally gotten the chance to understand the characters, their psyches, what makes them do what they do, why they become who they become, what they used to be. Now, as I look at this entire list cast, I look at all these characters and I can say, you know what? Every time they do something, I get it. I react a certain way. I get them all. I empathize with them all. And that's a good thing. That's what you need to make you care, so that when you do kill a character off or you do write them out, you have an emotional connection with that. There were times on Walking Dead in the first 3 or 4 seasons, they'd kill somebody off, and I'd be like, oh, well, okay. Now that wasn't every single character, but I'm just saying that, they sometimes were focused so much on the action and not so much on the reaction and where that took the story and what happened to the characters. We didn't get a chance to oftentimes have the characters breathe and react. Now we're getting that chance. Now, there have been some kinks here and there, but, it's never going to be perfect. And I think this is a show that kind of sometimes struggles because they do have a lot of cast. This week's episode, I thought, was probably the weakest of the 6. It was more like a setup episode for the future. Had a lot of things. If you're a comic book fan, it's set up a lot of things for probably the second half of this season that you'd be excited about, which I am. It wasn't a bad episode. I just think it was one of those episodes that is setting up a couple episodes down the road and not necessarily has any impact on the few episodes before and the few episodes that will come after it. But it was still a strong episode. Now, I'll tell you what's interesting to me is very smart on AMC. If you're going to start a new show, and they've done this, it is for Better Call Saul, too. I just didn't care for that show, so I didn't stick with it. But the AMC chose to stick their new show into the Badlands between Walking Dead and Talking Dead. And they're going to do that over the next couple of weeks before Walking Dead takes its hiatus. So they were very strategic about it. They didn't show you the promo for next week's Walking Dead until the first commercial break of Into the Badlands. And, of course, Talking Dead was on right after Into the Badlands. So, naturally, if you want to see the sneak preview of next week and you want to watch Talking Dead, you have to stick around and watch Into the Badlands. So that's what I did. I stuck around and I watched Into the Badlands. And I'm like, all right, you know what? It's a martial arts show. It's got some action and stuff. It looks pretty cool enough. It looks like some kind of Mortal Kombat kind of stuff. All right, I'll tune in. What the hell? Why not? And at first, the visuals bother me. And, hey, it's a TV show, whatever. It is what it is. And a couple times I was like, you know what? This show's getting a little too pretentious for me. They had a cool action scene to start, but then it got pretentious and slow and draggy, and I'm like, all right. Then it hits a point, and I don't want to spoil it. It hits a point in the third act when it starts to get into some of the mythology that the show is going to play with and mold the show around. And then you start to learn a little bit more about the character. Because I'll tell you something, the main character, Sonny, is very, and this is not a disrespect to the actor. I think the actor did the best he could. very unlikable in the first half of the show. Very unlikable. I'm sitting there like, boy, you know what? This guy's gonna carry the show with an unlikable character like this. Like what? And then all of a sudden, something happens in the third act with his I'm gonna call him his young protege because that's kind of the vibe that they give off. And all of a sudden, the supernatural element comes into play. We start to learn more about the mythology, that there might be a connection between him and this young man who he finds early in the episode. We start to get a better understanding that not all is as it seems with Sonny. He's a victim of the system. He's a victim of his surroundings, and you start to get a sense of why, some of these unlikable traits are there because he feels he has no choice. And it digs a little deeper, and then the final moments set some things up for the whole season. And there's a couple. I mean, I have a couple concerns. Number one, I don't like the fact they separated him from his young friend so early. I don't know how that's going to work because I don't think that I'm blanking on the character's name, so I apologize. His protege there, I'm blanking on his name, but I don't know if he can stand alone in his own story. The actor's good, but the way they wrote the character, it seems we'll see what happens there. But I wasn't quite expecting that. I thought they'd keep them in each other's orbits, not have them go on their own separate ways. But nonetheless, there was a lot of interesting developments in the final moments of the show that kind of got it going. And I'm going to have to tune in the next couple weeks anyway because I want to watch Talking Dead and everything. But I think I'll stick with the show and see where it goes. It wasn't bad. It wasn't the best thing I've ever seen, but it wasn't bad. It held my interest. So I'd recommend giving it a try, Into the Badlands. What else did I check out over the last week? I think Into the Badlands, Walking. I talked about everything else last week. The only other show I watched, I did check out aspects of Gotham last night. I would say this: if you're not a fan, don't watch it because the action sequences were okay, but the rest of it was just hideously dumb. Okay, Bruce and Alfred were good. And Penguin and Riddler and Enigma were just amazing. Best part of the episode easily. Easily. But outside of that, the Gordon stuff is just stupid. I just can't with that, what they're doing there. But I mean, if you want to go, just watch the Penguin Enigma stuff and the Bruce Alfred stuff. Go for it, because those two portions of the show were very, very, very good. But yeah, that's all that's as far as TV goes. That's all I've been able to. Everything else I talked about last week. So again, this is what happens when you do it on Tuesday. You don't have a lot to work with. But I digress, Mike. I know you were away. You probably haven't gotten a chance to check out much TV, but I'm going to throw to you anyway. If you have anything to offer, go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen anything in like last week. I've been busy. I will have to sit down and watch stuff.
Yeah, I figured that much.
Quarter of an episode of Doctor Who because they have a live showing. And we didn't see the whole thing because some guy decided it was a smart idea to start talking through the whole thing. Like when you're in the movie theater and there's that guy who just decides to start throwing his Mystery Science Theater 3000 commentary out there as riff tracks. Look, it's funny when the riff tracks guys do it because they are comedians and hilarious. When Joe Schmo does it, sometimes it's not. He was not. He was like, oh, Daniel Todd. Daniel Todd, I knew her. And this is so funny. This is not scary. I know it's going down. That's what I dealt with. That's what myself and Justin dealt with. And for it's like 15 minutes. They were like, no. I got the DVR, you know. So, yes, I need to watch S.H.I.E.L.D. I need to watch Hulu. I need to watch, let's see, Arrow. Let's see, the last thing I saw was the Constantine one, I think so. I think I'm about a little behind on Arrow. I know I'm behind on Flash. Obviously, I'm super behind on Flash, 2 episodes now. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Sorry. Oh, I'm not sorry, really.
No. Well, I figured you didn't get a chance to. It would make sense that you wouldn't get a chance to check much out. It's a given. All right, so that's it. I mean, I told you it's going to be a brief segment because I talked about stuff on Thursday, and as far as TV goes, and there was no, and I didn't have a lot to add because there's only been so much stuff I watched over the weekend. A couple of you asked me, a couple of you sent this into me, and I am aware of it, but I will address it for those that do not know, because not a lot of networks haven't announced their stuff yet. ABC just announced their mid-season schedule, so just to end it in lieu of further TV discussion, I'll give you all a sense of what they're doing here. And give you a brief reaction to it because I did something. There's a couple of things I don't understand, but Gallivant's returning Sunday, January 3rd. It'll be airing 2 episodes every Sunday from 8 to 9 for 5 straight weeks, so the same schedule it got last year. The Bachelor will be back on January 4th. Agent Carter debuts with a 2-hour premiere just like last year from 9 to 11 on Tuesday, January 5th. The Muppets returns on February 2nd, along with Fresh Off the Boat. Let's see. The Real O'Neills will sneak preview on March 2nd. The Family will sneak preview on March 3rd. Once Upon a Time returns March 6th, along with the Family, which will debut. We'll have a sneak preview on March 3rd. And Quantico will return on March 6th as well. Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. returns on Tuesday, March 8th. And keep in mind on March 8th that the Fresh Off the Boat will move to 8 o'clock. Real O'Neills will move into the 8:30 slot. The Muppets I think is done after that, I believe. How to Get Away with Murder will have its season finale March 17th. The Cats debuts March 24th. Nashville returns March 16th. American Crime will end its season on March 9th after it debuts on January 6th. Beyond the Tank will debut on Thursday, January 7th at 10 o'clock p.m. And My Diet is Better Than Yours will debut on that same night, Thursday, 8 o'clock from 8 to 10. And that's ABC's mid-season. So the only reaction I have to this, first of all, it looks like they're trying to finish off Nashville by keeping it off that long. Interesting that they're taking How to Get Away with Murder off so early. Consider, especially given Viola Davis's Emmy. Agent Carter and Gallivant aren't really that shocking. We all thought they'd get a similar schedule, and they did. Yeah, I mean, those would be my thoughts. We all knew about the Muppet news because we know the showrunner walked off and they're going to pretty much end the season early, and they cut the full season down a little bit. So that's not really that shocking. That's really all. You know, people ask me what my reaction was. I really don't have much reaction. So much of it really wasn't that surprising. Mike, I imagine you're very excited about Gallivant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see yeah. I liked the show, and I didn't like how it ended, so I'm glad it got picked up, even though they were stupid. And
yeah,
show like that. So I'm kind of excited to see what they do with it.
Yeah.
They have a second chance. They're not usually offered second chances, but they were to resolve it pretty quickly because I don't understand.
Yeah, they definitely ended on the wrong note last year, that's for sure. All right, so again, there's not much you can react to there. Also interesting too, and this is not TV related, but Val Kilmer is returning for Top Gun 2, which is rather surprising. I think a lot of people didn't think he would do it, but yeah, I think that is interesting. And when's the last time Val Kilmer did something big? Anybody know? Like, I don't remember what was Val Kilmer's last big role. I don't think it was MacGruber, was it? And I guess he's playing games because I guess the Hollywood Reporter's saying he's kind of like teasing it, like he's not like ready to like address that he's in it, but whatever. I mean, still, I mean, what was the last big thing he did? I'm trying to remember. I don't even know. I think he did. It can't be MacGruber. It can't be MacGruber. That can't be the last thing he did. Let's see. Train, Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, 2014. Robot Chicken. He was on Psych in 2014. All right, so there you go. He did Tom. Okay, I don't think the Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn movie came out yet. So, okay, so Robot Chicken. He did Psych in 2014. That's pretty much what he did. That was the last thing he did. Everything else, he's been either a voice guy for, or did a miniseries. His last major, he was on Saturday Night Live in 2011. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't really done much. So that's that. I can see why people would be shocked that he's doing Top Gun. Well, good for him. He's going to try to get back and get his career going again, I guess, you know, as far as major movies go, I guess. So that's good. That's good. But that was some big news earlier today, too. So. All right, so we're going to start to wind down, but real quick before we do, I'm going to give you a quick score update. We didn't announce it. We talked a lot. I mean, they're our hometown team, so we bring them up a lot, but Syracuse did beat St. Bonaventure. I think it was 79-66, I believe. Kentucky snaps a 3-game losing streak to Duke with a win, 74-63 in Chicago. Big upset going on. In a game that we haven't mentioned yet. Tulsa is up 64-57 on Wichita State with about 5 minutes left to go. So keep an eye on that game tonight. That could be interesting. Georgetown and Maryland are underway. 7 minutes left in the first on ESPN2. 16-16. That game, a good one. Check that game out. And later tonight, again, Champions Classic ends and closes out the tip-off marathon with a brilliant game between number 4 Kansas and number 13 Michigan State from the United Center in Chicago. Of course, also the college football playoff rankings being released in Chicago as well during this event. So big night for college sports. So if you're interested, check out the rest of the Champions Classic, Kansas, Michigan State on ESPN tonight. That game will get underway around 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Georgetown, Maryland on ESPN2 right now. Again, 7 minutes left in the first half. You can check out that game again on ESPN2. And if you're a Nova fan like Mike, Villanova taking on Nebraska, they're at the half. That game on Fox Sports 1. And then, of course, keep an eye on Wichita State, Tulsa, which could be a big upset tonight if that holds, as Tulsa has a 9-point lead with under 5 minutes left. And again, Kentucky knocking off Duke 74-63. So that's your story in college basketball. Obviously, we'll talk about any big stuff from college basketball and anything else from sports outside of football on next Tuesday's show, as we always do. We'll catch you up and talk about any of the big highlights and big stories, going on again outside of football, because we always have a separate football show for that. So you can next Tuesday we'll get into all the big headlines from college basketball, NBA, MLB, etc., and all that usual stuff that we get into. All right, so with that all being said, we are done for tonight. As always, the show might be over. That does not mean you have to stop interacting with us or contributing to our show. You can continue to send us feedback, topic ideas, breaking news items, reactions, comments, feedback to things we did on the show, things we said, topics we did on the show or discussed, questions about the show, questions about the schedule of the show, any of those things. We have a wrestling show tomorrow night. You want to get your questions or comments, and any of those things you can do via email, Facebook, or Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Again, you please use the hashtags, hashtag itspotlight411 or hashtag its5. That one, of course, to represent our 5th anniversary on the air as a podcast. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and make sure you like our page once you find us. Again, if you want to catch up on our show since we debuted here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube about a month ago, the only way to do that is here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. As soon as we're live streaming, as soon as our live streaming is over, the episodes are stored on Google Hangouts and on YouTube on our channel. So just search, go on Google Hangouts and on YouTube, search for In the Spotlight 411. You'll find all the episodes from the last few weeks. I think there's 13 in total, including tonight. The Podbean and iTunes stuff is still not situated yet. Yes, as I said last week, everything's been uploaded. The issue is not with me. The issue is with the site itself, not me. They're working on something for me. So I don't have any words for why it's taken so long. It's been a week now since they told me that, since I was alerted to this problem. Hopefully it's rectified this week so it doesn't go into the holiday. Right now, there's no way of listening to us from an audio standpoint. You have to check us out here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. So until further notice, the only way you can catch up on our shows, at least the ones since we debuted here on Hangouts and on YouTube, is to check us out here on Google Hangouts and YouTube. So again, just search for us In the Spotlight 401 on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. You can check out all the 13 episodes that we've had here on these two sites over these last couple of weeks, and catch up on them or listen or check them out again. Whenever you would like, or whenever you maybe missed a part of them, or you missed them at all, you can check us out. Now, if you're somebody that's interested in what we did before we debuted here on Hangouts and on YouTube, you can check us out on our first home, blogtalkradio.com, where our original episodes, our first 31 episodes, are stored. Or you can check out the rest of our episodes either on TalkShoe.com, Libsyn.com, or iTunes. Just search for on all those sites: Blog Talk Radio, TalkShoe, Libsyn, iTunes. Search for In the Spotlight with Brian Gardner. That is our old title. That's how you can find it. And it's In the Spotlight with Brian Gardner. Then you can check out all of our old shows from before our days here live streaming on Hangouts and on YouTube, and you can get a sense of what we did over the years and what we do and all that stuff. Especially if you're a new listener, a new fan, I should say, you get a better sense of who we are and everything else. So, all right. So hopefully the other stuff works out. Our new host site and iTunes will get that rectified so that you all that want to check us out by audio means can do that, because I know that's a lot of you like to do. But until further notice, again, if you're looking at recent shows, particularly the last 13 shows we've done since we debuted here on Hangouts and on YouTube, the only way you can do that, the only way you can catch up on our show, rewatch shows or whatever, is to do that here on Hangouts and on YouTube. So just keep that all in mind. As always, I'd like to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
It is time for bed.
Yes.
And see how you did. Is it? Oh, it was an hour show, but since you added stuff, now it's over an hour because I added stuff too. So, suck a dick.
Of course, perfect way to end it, Mike. Thank you very much. Of course, I want to thank myself for another great show, pat myself on the back, and thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for listening. Not listening. Thank you so much for watching, I should say. I'm so used to just being on audio. I got to get adjusted. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your contributions, your support, all that you do for us, your patience. I know we had some tech issues tonight. Thank you for bearing with us with that. Again, tomorrow night, our wrestling show, not Thursday, tomorrow night, broadcasting live here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. We will preview WWE Survivor Series paper. We'll go over all the matches, talk about the, make predictions, talk about the card in general, storylines, angles, and of course, at the end, the final thing we'll do at the end of the night is address questions and comments from the listeners. Probably not the listeners, from the fans. I should say. Again, still think we're on audio. Apologies. So if you want to get your questions or comments in via Facebook, email, or Twitter, you can do that before the show or during the show. And that's what we'll be doing tomorrow night. That will be our next show, In the Spotlight Football Blitz, right now scheduled for Friday at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. If anything changes with that, I'll be sure to let you know on tomorrow night's show. Otherwise, that will be the time. I hope you all, again, keep in mind, Champions Classic, second game, Kansas, Michigan State, ESPN, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time tonight to close out the tip-off marathon. Georgetown, Maryland on ESPN2. So lots of college basketball still to come tonight. So if you're interested in that, check those games out on their respective channels. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you back here tomorrow night here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube, broadcasting live at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time for our all wrestling show previewing the WWE Survivor Series pay-per-view. Until then, I hope you all have a good night and a good day tomorrow. See you tomorrow night, everybody, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Have a good night.